Hello, everyone. Good morning to those still in Europe. Good afternoon to, no, it's the other way around, actually. Good afternoon to those in Europe. Good morning to those overseas. Welcome to this new webinar, which is the fifth one that we are producing. My name is Loic Garcia. I am a product specialist at Erplain, and today we are going to take a look at traceability. So we are going to split that presentation into two more distinct parts. We are first going to take a look into why that matters so much. So we're going to take a look at the legislation, why traceability matters so much, why you need to track your batches, why that presents such a challenge for companies. And then we'll focus on to Erplain, and I am going to show you how you can enable batch tracking within our software, how you can enable it, use it, manage your batches, and use it to track your products. Be sure that you comply with your local legislation, how you can interconnect that with our various product types that we mentioned in past webinars and that you might be familiar with given your experience on the software. We're also going to take a look into how that works regarding your potential recalls, how you can put all of that into application. So we have members of the team in the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If they can give you some answers, they will. I will take a bit of time at the end to answer some of them as well that might have been sent to me or that I will be able to find in the chat. If your questions do not get an answer before the end, maybe we just ran out of time or we just couldn't find them, rest assured, we will get back to you via email in the next few days, under 48 hours. Regarding the replays, they will be also available on our YouTube channel, probably somewhere between tomorrow and Thursday. So you will also be able to check that out alongside our previous webinars on how to optimize your account, different product types that we have, and so on. So I think everyone's here, so we might just get going. So first off, I wanted to focus on why traceability matters. So we focused on three main reasons regarding why that's such an important topic. First off, improve quality control, because traceability means that you are tracking your products across different stages. So you are making sure that the quality is up to par regarding what you want to do. And that allows you to manage more in depth, to get a better relationship with your suppliers, with your customers, to build a sense of trust with them, which is something that will be very rewarding in the medium term or even the long term. Obviously, compliance with regulation, whether you're in Europe, whether you're in America, whether you're anywhere else in the world, it's very likely that there will be a regulation in place regarding traceability, meaning that you do need to be able to track sensitive products. Again, allows you to improve your relations with your customers, with people that you might interact with on a daily basis, which is always a good thing to do. And if we also look at how it matters regarding the different industries in which you might be operating, obviously, if you're talking about food, if you're talking about health, if you're talking about automobiles, you will always have that requirement to ensure safety regarding what you do. Obviously, you don't want to have any health issues linked to what you do in the food industry, even worse in the medical industry. All of these industries come with various safety guidelines in place. And what you need to do and what we need to do is to ensure that you have all the tools to make sure that you can ensure smooth sailing for all of your resources, all of your products and services, and simply make sure that your customers will always have the best of the best always available to them. So with that out of the way, I am going to share my Erplain account now, and we're going to take a look into how Erplain puts things into place to make sure that you can use traceability as best as possible. We are going to talk about traceability. So now that we're back at it again, we are going to see how you can integrate that into your workflow, into your daily operations. So first off, how do you even enable traceability in Erplain? You can do that from the get-go, so directly from creating a product. As you can see here, you get the product types, but you can also click on batch tracking, and then you can pick a product, for instance, add a SKU, add a barcode, add whatever information feels relevant to you. We're going to do the bare minimum in here. Add a pricing here, a purchasing price as well. And from that point on, you already have your product. You also already have a product with batch tracking enabled. As you can see here, you can track those batches. You need to create them first. As you can see, you've got quantities, which is your initial stock level that are unallocated. So you need to create a batch or batches, depending on how you want to operate. But let's say, for instance, we are trying to create two equal batches. You can add an expiration date, and what you can do to separate those batches is make sure that they have a different expiration date. The expiration date is optional, meaning that you do not necessarily have to add it. You can also add a barcode. Those informations are not mandatory. You can go without them. That will change the logic in a few of the documents that you might create, but most of the workflow will remain the same. And we are going to take a look into that just later on. So that's a way to enable batch tracking on a new product. But what you can do is also enable batch tracking on a pre-existing product. You simply have to go to that product page, select start tracking your batch numbers for that product, and you enable batch tracking from that point on. So as you can see here, I've got my number of batches. So I've got 0 because I've just enabled batch tracking. You have your unallocated quantities. Keep in mind that one of the things that you need to remember is that the batch tracking, once you've enabled it on a product, there's no going back, meaning that you cannot disable it, given that it changes the structure of the product in the software. So that's just something to keep in mind, just in case. Otherwise, as you can see, you have your batch numbers that you can manage from there. You can also do it into all of your other products. You can check in the columns here at a product type that will tell you all of the products that you have, and you will be able to see if you have batch tracking enabled or not. You can enable it here. As you can see, as always, you have visibility over the number of batches that you have, the unallocated quantities that will need to be allocated to batches in order to be used in your sales documents, leading, of course, to your sales documents. So how do you integrate those batches into your sales cycle? What you do is that you simply go to create a classic run-of-the-mill sales order. You select your customer, then you go and you select your products. If you have a barcode for a specific batch, you can also use it that way to make sure that it will select automatically from the right batch. As you can see here, I've selected the right location, I've selected my product, I can select the quantity, and every time I will have a little orange box in here that will basically tell me you need to pick from which batch you're taking those units, those 20 units. So in that case, I have 2 batches, so I can choose if I'm taking from batch number 1, batch number 2. What I can do, and what I meant by the fact that not putting an expiration date changes the logic, is that if you have an expiration date and you choose to automatically allocate, it will automatically pick the batch with the closest expiration date. Otherwise, it will pick the oldest batch that you have created. So it's just something worth keeping in mind. That's the logic that we're using regarding which batch is automatically picked from if you're choosing to automatically allocate. You save it. As you can see, the little orange box has turned green, meaning that you're good to go. You can create that sales order from now. As you can see, then it's business as usual on Erplain. You can create your shipping orders, your invoices, your product returns. if you create your shipping orders, you see here the quantities are already allocated unless you make some changes. If you remove quantities or if you add, you will need to reallocate accordingly. Once that's done, obviously you can ship it and you will be all done on that side of things. So that's how it works regarding the sales side of things. Regarding the purchases, the system is a bit similar. The main difference will be the timing. What I mean by that is that if you go to create a purchase order, and we're going to use the same product as an example, as you can see here, I do not have the little square, the little box, the little orange box doesn't show up in here. That's normal. It's on purpose because it is too early in the process for you to choose to which batch you're allocating those quantities. However, when you're managing your deliveries, so when you're receiving those products, you have a decision to make. You have to choose in which batch those quantities are going. So in that case, you select, say, well, basically, they're going back into batch number 1, for instance. You save it. Again, it goes from orange to green. So you're good to go and you can save it. So that's how it works and how it integrates into your workflow. What that does as well is that it will show up in your documents. So if you take a sales order, for instance, one we've created, you will always be able to see the product as well as the batch. And if you look at the PDF, for instance, you can see here, you'll always get the batch ID, the quantities, the expiration date. Same goes if you're using multiple batches. The system will remain the same. So what that does is that you have visibility and your customers have visibility over what you're selling. If that's information that you wish would be kept more private, then you can do that from the PDF settings. So what you do is that you go into your settings, your PDF settings, and then based on the document that you're using, you can make sure that you're hiding the batch IDs. If you want, if it's something that you want the information to remain an internal information, you can do it from here and, for instance, have it show up on your sales order, but not your invoices. So that's up to you, and you can sort of fine tune that system to make sure that it fits your workflow. So that's how you integrate that. I also wanted to mention how you integrate all of that with the various product types that we have in Erplain. So first off, I wanted to quickly talk about kits and assemblies. So I'm going to switch up to a visual that we've made. Just very quickly, what we call an assembly in Erplain is something that is transformed, a final product that is transformed based on components. So as you can see here, you've got your three components and they make up that final product, and that transformation is what impacts the stock levels of the components. So that's how you get visibility over all of that. What you can do in Erplain is mix and match those different product types, meaning that you can use batch tracking and assemblies. So you can do it both ways. You can either use batch tracking on an assembly, so a final product, you're going to be using batch tracking on that final product, meaning that when you go to create that final product in Erplain, you will have to choose in which batch you're allocating those quantities. So going back to assemblies, if you are creating an assembly and then using it to with batch tracking, what that will do is that when you go to transform that assembly to get more products of that assembly, you will have to pick a batch ID when you're creating new units, meaning that you will decide, well, those units are going into that batch and they will have quantities to that specific batch. What you can also do is enable batch tracking on the components of that assembly. So in that case, if we're looking at this assembly, so lavender honey, as you can see here, I cannot create any units of that assembly until I've picked from which batch I am picking my units for that specific component. So you have both of those ways to set up. regarding your assemblies and batch tracking. As you can see, you can mix and match the different product types and sort of enable or disable them as you go. You can also do that with your variants. So if you take a look here, for instance, as a product that has a number of variants, if you look at that specific variant, you can also enable batch tracking for that. So if you have a product with variants, you're not cut off from batch tracking. You're not stopped from, nothing stops you from doing that. You can still do it, but as you've seen quickly in here, there are some consequences beyond the fact that the operation is not reversible. As you can see, for traceability reasons, any stock update can only be done either with a stock entry, a stock removal, a delivery, an invoice, or a shipping order. What that means is that what you can do with most of your products in Erplain is use our inventory bulk update tool. So that inventory bulk update tool gives you a list of all of your products, and it allows you to basically update the quantities depending on simply the evolution of your inventory based on anything outside your usual perimeter. Meaning that if you have units that are coming in that aren't sold or purchased, you can simply update your inventory that way and make sure that it is updated and reflected in the software. So the issue with that, or at least the nuance with that, is that once you enable batch tracking and you look at the product in the inventory bulk update tool, you will not be able to find all of the products with batch tracking enabled in the list. They will not be available. They won't show up because the software has changed the structure of the products to make sure that nothing happens unless there is a document acting as proof. So what that entails is that you need to create either a stock entry, a stock removal, or simply an operation, a sale or a purchase, to make sure that it simply shows up. So what that means is that you look here. So as you can see here, I've got my inventory bulk update tool. I can see a lot of my products in here, but if I really want to dig deep and have a look at all of my products, I will be able to see that some of them do not appear in the list. If I'm looking at apple, you can see I cannot find my apple juice. Again, on purpose, because you need a document to prove that you have updated or affected that inventory. So what you do is that you create either a stock entry or a stock removal. You select your product. You can find it here in the list. You need to, again, allocate into a batch. And once that's done, again, orange to green, you're good to go and your inventory has been updated. So it adds an extra step, but it also gives you more clarity, documents to prove that your inventory has been changed, and it gives you more visibility over your products, your batches, and overall more control over what you might be trying to do. Your products with batch tracking enable are obviously handled differently in the software. This is why you need to do some extra steps. Those are simply a way to comply with what is required in terms of traceability. That's why you have then those documents that can sort of show up as proof of what has happened. And that's sort of how we've set up traceability in Erplain. So as you can see, a fairly straightforward process, but something that's very important, especially if you're working with more sensitive products. As you can see, you can then change the structure of them, manage those batches, and have more visibility of what you're doing. If you take a look in here at your batches, you can see all of the batches that you've created. You see the batch ID, the product, the SKU, the location, the expiration dates, and the stock levels. And you can go more in depth if you select one of the batches, and you can see basically every operation that has happened with that specific batch. So in that case, you can see the sales orders, the shipping orders, the deliveries, the product returns. You get visibility over all of that. What Erplain puts in place also with the product returns is that it allows you to pick and choose whether or not you want those products to return to your inventory. What I mean is that, as you can see here, I've got a product return that has been created from an invoice. And I can decide in those settings, so when I'm creating it or when I'm editing it, I can choose whether or not those products are returning into my inventory. So with batch tracking products, you can make sure that those products that you have had to recall that are probably unsafe or not available to sell again, you can make sure that they're not added back into your inventory. Again, that's a way to help you manage your recalls. And then from that point on, for your products, you can make sure that you are either doing a refund or a credit note if necessary, which will all show up in here depending on which you create and how many you create. So all in all, that's traceability in Erplain. I am going to also take a look at some questions. The webinar is recorded indeed. It will be available between tomorrow and Thursday. We are going to edit it and trim out the periods where the system got a bit iffy. But yeah, it will be available shortly. I'm going to take a look at some questions that I got sent. If you have any questions of your own, please send them in the chat and we'll do our best to give you answers either now, or if we don't have time or if we're unable to, we'll get back to you by email in the next few days. So what I have is, what can I do with the stock from an expired batch? So if we take a look at the batches in here, if you have a batch that is past its expiration date, you will get a red triangle that will basically tell you your past expiration date. You cannot use that stock anymore. Those units are sort of lost. Basically, you cannot use them anymore because they're past the expiration date. It is unsafe for you to use them. The little nuance about that is that, let's say it's a human mistake. You simply made a little mistake and added the wrong expiration date. You can still edit it. So let's say you've got the year wrong. It's August 2026 instead of 2025. You can still edit it, save it, and those quantities will then be available to you once again. Keep in mind, that is only done for human mistakes and not just to push back some expiration dates. So can I create a new assembly with batch numbers tracking enabled? Yes, you can. So it's basically a mix of the two ways I've showed you to enable batch tracking. I've showed you how to create a new product. I've showed you how to do it in an assembly, but you can also create a new assembly with batch tracking. So as you can see here, I've got my single product. I can choose to make it an assembly and enable batch tracking. What I will do is that then I will have to choose my components, the prices, my initial stock level, and so on. So everything that I do when I'm creating a new product. But then I will also have to allocate those quantities, that initial stock level, into batches or a single batch, depending on what you want to do. I see a question from Malcolm. Could you show me again where you go to hide the batch details? Yeah, so that's into your settings. You've got your settings down there. Then you've got your PDF settings. And if you scroll down, you get a list of documents. Those are all the documents that you can create in Erplain. And you can choose for every one of them the information that you want to appear or that you want to quote unquote hide. As you can see here, you can make sure, for instance, that your batch IDs doesn't show up in your sales order or that it doesn't show up in your invoices. It's really up to you. Once you do that, then there will be hidden and there will be information that will remain internal information. So again, up to you, but that's in your settings, in your PDF settings, when you can sort of fine tune what appears on the documents that you are creating. Then does Erplain support serial numbers? So regarding serial numbers, our dev team is working on it. It is on the roadmap. I cannot give you a specific release date for the feature. I can only tell you that it is on the way. It will be there. I don't know when, but it will. And it will allow you to gain even more control on your traceability with the opportunity to add batch numbers as well as serial numbers. So that's what we wanted to mention today. Thank you for your presence here. Apologies again for all the technical issues. As mentioned previously, we'll fix the recording and we'll make it available on YouTube in a few days, in a few hours. We'll get it to you as soon as we can. Regarding the future webinars, we'll be back around September, so you'll get the summer off. We hope to be back with a lot of good news, a lot of new features. In the meantime, if there are some things that you need to check out, you can take a look at our Help Center, where you can look at most of the information that we have available to you regarding our software, our features, our updates, our integrations. You can take a look at that. When you're leaving that call, you will also have a little survey that you can also take a look at. We'd really appreciate your feedback. Even though we had some technical issues today, we'd still really appreciate to know what you liked, what you liked a little bit less. But all in all, thank you for your time today, and we hope to see you soon on our plane. Thank you and have a great day.